warriors come out to play. Warriors.
Yo, 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 what's good? What's up, people? It's Crypto and Down. It's Asherel here with Jams Jetson, here to talk some crypto on this fine, is it Monday? Tuesday evening. What's good with people out there? Jams, it's good to talk with you. It's been a while since we last streamed, but a lot has happened. Ready to get into some prices, tokenization, market action, blockchain protocols. But I'll pass it over to you, Jams. How are you doing today? Slash tonight.
Yo, yo, yo. Shout out to all the crypto rascals and crypto warriors out there. It was so refreshing to hear the throwback introduction song that really got me into the mood, got me to ready to talk prices, to talk markets, lots of action, lots of movement, hell, lots of breaking news, unfortunately. I know we'll get into the down part of the show later on, but great to be back on with you. Shout out to King and the gentlemen of crypto. Really appreciate the opportunity to be back on streaming with our gentlemen of crypto audience. And then shout out to the longtime crypto and down fans. We're back streaming on Facebook, back streaming on Instagram. Negative shout out to Elon Musk for making us pay for premium X subscription to stream there. We will no longer be streaming on X as we refuse to support those who take advantage of others. We won't say anything more than that. Um, Looking forward to potentially expanding our reach. Asherel, I hadn't mentioned this to you on stream, but how about we start kicking back off on Twitch and potentially even kick, giving the younger audience our takes and market analysis into crypto, politics, and a little bit of current events. But it's another Tuesday. We're back in the seats. We're back on the stream. Our internet Wi Fi is kicking live. Kids are sleeping. Hope your family's doing well. Hope work is going well. We're in a new year. Excited to talk, man.
Yeah, a lot has happened this past new year. It seems like every 2 weeks seems like 2 months at a time. So since we last streamed, we had the Maduro kidnapping slash perp walk, the president of Venezuela. We've seen gold and silver just reach all-time highs, which is crazy. We'll talk a little bit about that and tie that into the blockchain ecosystem. But we've also saw the World Economic Forum and a lot of leaders there, and some, I would say, breaking news and things to think through that probably are starting to affect these blockchain protocols and specifically token prices. So, with all the volatility in the markets, considering mostly gold and silver, and what's happening in geopolitically, I think there's definitely some opportunities here in the blockchain space. So we're definitely going to cover those, and I'm excited to get into some of those things for sure. Definitely. It's been a
Let's do it.
wild time. It's been a wild time, and yeah, shout out to the Kick. If we can get over on Kick, I know I'd be watching Rampage Jackson streams every once in a while. So, and Kick seems to be where it's at right now nowadays. I'm not sure I'm ready for the live stream yet, but we'll definitely got to do something over there. But let's get into some prices. Talk, look through the market. Maybe take a look at a overview of the past week. Um, Definitely drop your comments, like, share, and subscribe. Hit that share button. Get this podcast out as we try to grow our reach. All right, Jams. Let's go through some of the market action prices. We can take a look at over a week. I have it on the monthly view. Let's drop down to the weekly view and take a look at what we're seeing market cap wise, volume wise, from Bitcoin all the way down through the top 10. And then we'll get into some analytics here.
I love that you actually have it there on the monthly view and just drop down into that weekly view, as we have just jumped into the month of February. Happy Black History Month to all those that celebrate, like myself. So now that we are in our second month of the year and we have a full calendar month registered, it's been blood in the streets, a lot of anxiety and crying and fear. If we were to look at our fear and greed index, we're registering at 14, which is a level of extreme fear. And we're well into Bitcoin dominance with altcoins bleeding, and our market cap as a whole sitting at about $2.5 trillion, down 1.57% today. So if we were to look at a 1 week time frame, and to start with Bitcoin today is at $76,282, down 15% on the week, down almost 29%, or excuse me, down 20% on a month time frame. Today, it made a 356 day low, so a yearly low today, as it dropped down just below 72,000, which was something painful for many to see. But for those who are willing to be patient, that's opportunity. You have the opportunity to buy Bitcoin at a generational entry price if you missed it, the run up all the way to 126,000. So while today was a rough day for Bitcoin, seeing it drop down to 73,073. So I don't think it did get all the way to 72, but 73,073 is basically there. That's a 356 day low. So big buying opportunity. If you are a long-term Bitcoin investor, as we always say, nothing we say here is financial advice, just two brothers saying things publicly that we otherwise could say amongst ourselves privately. Continuing on, Ethereum, a big story this week from Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, as he sold 700 and about 10 Ethereum this week for about $1.5 million. And as you can see, Ethereum trading at $2,273 per ETH, bleeding almost 30% on the last month. So also very well into discount territory, very near local lows, and looking at that 30 minute chart there, you can see that Ethereum is continuing to show weakness in even smaller time frames. So in comparison, as Bitcoin continues to bleed, so will Ethereum at a faster rate. So now is not the time to go dumpster diving or to be leaning heavy on alts unless you have deep conviction. And even with deep conviction, you are likely going to be bleeding capital, as even Vitalik Buterin has sold 700 ETH this week.
Yeah,
Who knows
Ethereum may be one of those places where a lot of the traditional legacy finance is coming in and utilizing the chain, but from, you could say, Vitalik selling to some of the issues they are projecting with security and scaling. It's one of those, I think, things to watch for sure as more and more big institutions start to utilize it for stable coins, or as a settlement layer for like bringing in real world assets, securities or bonds or what have you, onto the chain. It'll be interesting to watch how that works and compares to some of the other up and comers.
I agree. I do think Ethereum will continue to be the number two um, cryptocurrency in the world. And I do think it's important that people are aware of Vitalik's announcement this week on X. So go check out that recent post where he says there have recently been some discussions on the ongoing role of layer twos in the Ethereum ecosystem, especially in the face of two facts. This is what's most important. Layer twos progress to stage two, and secondarily, on interoperability, has been far slower and more difficult than originally expected. So we're talking about Polygon, Matic, we're talking
Hmm.
about Avalanche, we're talking about all of these layer twos, Arbitrum, that were the hot ticket item altcoins previous cycles. He's now saying they're developing slower and their progress interoperability has been more difficult than originally expected. Layer one itself, meaning Ethereum, is scaling. Fees are very low. I just saw this week that it was cheaper to trade on Ethereum than it actually was to trade on Pulse Chain. Fancy that. And gas limits are projected to increase greatly in 2026. Both of these facts, for their own separate reason, mean that the original vision of layer twos and their role in Ethereum no longer makes sense, and we need a new path. So, Ethereum needs to scale, and so it no longer needs layer twos to scale as it increases gas limits and becomes a more roll up centric map. So, the for those who have been chasing layer twos as their altcoin play, you have the founder of Ethereum not only selling Ethereum, lowering the price, but also angling and telling you that this layer one is where scaling will take place. And as Asherelle just mentioned, as real world assets and tokenization from institutions becomes a bigger part of the financial markets, then that is likely where that will take place instead of Bitcoin. So Ethereum's role will be paramount. So yes, it's bleeding heavily, 25%, down 25% over the last week, but that's absorbing 710 ETH being sold by Vitalik and Bitcoin dropping as well in the larger cryptocurrency market as a whole. So everything has to be framed in the context that long term Ethereum is still a buy.
Yeah, that's a good point, I guess, to think through as well. And looking at these kind of like commodities, Ethereum being the gas access token that you need to operate on that network, it may bleed a little bit. It may, as legacy comes in and the more bigger institutions, and there's, I would say, true price discovery, the price could be lower for a while, as I guess, we figure out exactly what it's worth, with you know um, being like an interaction between all these big institutions, essentially. So
100%. Tether in a solid in the number three spot with 185 billion. I don't want to mention the breaking news over the weekend, but it is interwoven into the conversation. But we'll get to that later. BNB in the number four spot, trading at $760 or $762 per BNB token, down just shy of 1% on the day. CZ announcing on Twitter a couple of days ago that, hey, I don't own Binance anymore. I went to prison, man. They took the company away from me. There's no way that I could be selling Bitcoin and dropping the markets. You guys need to chill. Binance is a net buyer of cryptocurrency. Stop crying and saying, blaming us for liquidations and price going down. To that, I say, yeah, right, man. Tell somebody else that crime season is among us. If there's money to be made, BNB's definitely making it. So Binance, yeah, whatever, man. XRP Army's hanging strong.
Still there.
Yep.
They're still strong, and they have
Yep.
a lot of let's say spokespeople behind them. That's for sure.
Hey, at $1.60, I actually saw OnlyFans model repping XRP, telling another OnlyFans model her retirement plan should be buy XRP and chill. She was like, "What do I do with all this new OnlyFans money I'm making?" And she was like, "Hey, go buy XRP." And that's what I did, and I made a lot of money. Well, if you bought XRP around 25 cents and it's now at $1.60, you made more money than the guys who bought gold at 2,500 and sold it at 5,000. So guess what? Can't knock her too. She's not all the way wrong.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that that XRP chart. It's October of 24.
Hey man, it traded around 25
Oh.
cents for forever, man. If you like forever, that 25 cents range was there for forever.
But yeah, with XRP, I'm not actually sure what XRP actually does or how it's just one of those they have the biggest army out there of pushers.
It's money for the banks. It's crypto for the banks.
Yeah, they're going to use
for the
it.
banks is what they told
It's
us.
funny, with all this institutional adoption, and it's like we're here. The big boys are coming. We got the framework with the Genius Act. They're working on the Clarity Act going through. Has to go through the Senate, and I still don't see where XRP fits in this. But hey, that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, XRP is not my favorite.
It's a fun one. That's all I can say.
Favorite
It's fun.
crypto. But here's a little bit of interesting facts. So since inception, Ripple Labs has sold roughly 8.7 billion XRP from its treasury into the market via institutional, OTC, and other channels over many years. Not all in a single year, with ongoing disclosures. So, for example, in 2023, Ripple's XRP sales were reported to be roughly 2 billion worth of XRP, but this covers a calendar year. So, retail investors, Ripple Labs is very happy for you to support them, and they appreciate you being exit liquidity. I think you're just as dumb as the Hexicans. And I just gave you the numbers. USDC market cap of 70 billion, and Solana down under $100, man. I saw that today, and I was like, shoot, man, I might just go grab me one for $100 because at least you can stake it, get 4 to 5, 6, 7% annual yield. So take $1,000, hey, free $70 right there, just for doing nothing. So will price continue to bleed? Yes, I do. I saw that there is a lot of Solana coming onto market over the next few months. So expect some selling pressure, and Solana is inflationary. So, it's not like Bitcoin. Nevertheless, there is a new Solana ETF being launched in Germany, I believe, or somewhere in Europe. I saw that today. And I do believe in Solana long term, and transparently am a daily investor into Solana in small recurring amounts, because I understand that it's important to have access to liquidity. There's liquidity on Solana. There's retail frenzy on Solana. There's degen activity on Solana. And there's institutional interest on Solana as well. Hyperliquid lives there. And as
Yeah.
tokenization gets becomes more mainstream, Solana will be a big player on that.
I mean, there's a lot there. To me, kind of comparing Solana to Ethereum, it's one of those where it's like, yeah, it's a layer one. It's a blockchain where there's a lot of things going on. They have protocols that are being used for real world things, whether that's people who are wanting to do launch their own tokens, trade perpetuals, bringing on commodities and tokenizing different assets like Ethereum. Solana's there. The price difference between the two, I wonder if they'll get closer together, as maybe you'll see Ethereum drop over the years to get closer to Solana, and Solana may have the most upside. And I look at it as, it's the gas token that you need for that particular blockchain. So it's going to have some exposure if you're going to utilize those particular blockchains, um, for yourself or for these institutions. So they'll need Solana. They'll need to validate and secure the networks by having these different tokens. So there could be, at least you could say, some fluctuations with those particular tokens associated with Ethereum and Solana. But I mean, over time, I would expect them to stay steady, to stay steady overall, just because of all the assets flowing into those chains.
Could not
So
agree more.
yeah, for sure.
Um, Normally, I don't spend much time on Tron, other than saying that it seems to defy all odds in the market, much like Binance Coin. But very interesting developments this week around Justin Sun. Accusations came in from his ex girlfriend that TRX is a big pump and dump, that early on they were inflating the prices on Binance, and using multiple Binance accounts to artificially inflate the price and then sell
Of Binance.
TRX coins off market. And basically, the accuser, who is Justin Sun's ex girlfriend, allegedly has chat records, WeChat data, and employee information, and is willing to cooperate with with the SEC if she is contacted. Nevertheless, in a day where the market are bleeding in red, Justin Sun continues to defy the gravity and is up 1% on a month, where Ethereum is down 30%.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
I don't know
I'm gonna
if
have
this
to look.
girl's
I don't
telling the
know
truth
about
or not.
this. I gotta
Yeah,
look into
that's
this because,
brand new story. Just
yeah,
dropped
I'll
today
have to. I'll have to look at that.
or yesterday.
I
Yeah.
mean, just looking at the chart, it's been a steady increase. So I could say, yeah, this looks manipulated, but manipulated to the upside to hold it steady, to keep inflows on there. Um, so, I don't want to besmirch this lady without having read her allegations. And yeah, I'm sure there's ties to BNB, but from looking at it as a perspective of, if you're just looking at price appreciation, if you own or have access to the Tron in one of your wallets, it's been up and to the right steadily for the past 6 years. So I would.
And I do want to quote her. She is very well known. Want to give her due diligence. Her name is Zeng Ying, and she also goes by the name 1010. And to quote her in her own words, she said, "I was Justin's girlfriend during the early stages of his entrepreneurship with TRX. I am in possession of evidence showing that he used the identities and mobile phones of multiple employees to register numerous Binance accounts through which he conducted coordinated buying. I am not making empty accusations. I have substantial amount of evidence, and what has been disclosed so far is only a very small portion of it. Justin Sun used the identities of multiple employees based in Beijing to operate accounts on the Binance exchange." So she is alleging financial crimes, and we shall see if the term coin season, or excuse me, crime season, is appropriate or not, and if her accusations are deemed credible by the SEC and authorities around the world. But as I have seen, Trump, excuse me, Tron has been defying the markets and has been beating Bitcoin ever since the election of Donald Trump. I don't know if that train is going to be stopped 1010, but I wish you luck. And I am not denying your allegations, as I have not reviewed the evidence, and have no reason to disbelieve you.
I mean, whatever. I won't say nothing. I won't say what I'm gonna say.
I will say, hell hath no fury
That's
like
what
the one.
I mean.
So, hey,
Come on, like whatever. All right, Tintin, do you? Yeah, Tron is one of those interesting block where they're trying to do a lot in the space, as far as they have access to, let's which we call it, privacy, bringing on institutions to utilize their blockchain for settlements, payments. They're one of the, probably I would say, the most used blockchains when it comes to use around the world. I think they're where a lot of the USDT stablecoins are, um, and used and launched because of the low fees. It is a fork of Ethereum, and to me, over the years, they've done better, maybe from just a regular person use case. Particularly if you want to say somebody who's in a country where they don't have a lot of money, as we've seen over the past few years, Ethereum, those gas fees were so high, and it was so high fees to transact on there. Tron has been one of those blockchains, I think, where it's been easy for people to get on and transact and do what they need to do, and the number one place for stablecoins to be minted, for USDT, just because of the low fees. So we'll see whatever comes of Tintin's allegations. But
yeah,
there are a
I
lot of
think
blocks. Yeah, go
you're
ahead.
really onto something there, because there is real DeFi activity on TRX. And when you look at emerging markets, not just the developed Western world, and even developed emerging markets, there's $5 billion of total value locked on TRX. There's just 10 billion on Solana. So, it's not like we're talking massive differences, although in our mind and even in reputation, we wouldn't say they're 50x or 50% a part of each other. Like we wouldn't
Hmm.
think that. Ethereum's total value locked is 66 billion. So that's a well-deserved difference in reputation and mindset and approach from Ethereum to Tron. But I don't think that the same from Solana to Tron. And maybe that's a mischaracterization on my part and a misunderstanding, not giving Tron its due respect. But if 1010's saying, hey, they manipulating and cheating over there, that's why
But
they got
they're the
five
manipulating
billion,
the
then I don't
finance
know.
price. So I'm like, who isn't doing this?
True, true. I
I'm
mean,
not,
who is not artificially inflating
two wrongs don't
their
make a right.
coin prices? And so everyone is cheating. That's why I call it crime season, at least until Dunny T is out of office. And so,
If he leaves.
yeah, man, it is what it is.
All right, cool. We can move on.
Dogecoin trading at 11 cents, down 15 cents on the month, or excuse me, on the weekly chart.
Let's just take a look overall. What are we doing? Oof. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we look over long term, obviously trending up, but down significantly from recent highs. And I would just say, if you are a Dogecoin investor or a fan, just remember it's a meme coin. It's going to follow the market and likely feel dips significantly harder. May rip at times, may have cultural moments, but I wouldn't allocate more than 1, 2, maybe 3% of my portfolio to something like Dogecoin.
Yeah. It is compatible with, it's a proof of work, so it's compatible with
Yes.
Bitcoin and all those other ones. So as time goes on and things flush out, like it could benefit off of all those chains.
You're gonna
So
tell me Dogecoin's gonna get some utility one day?
it's possible, man.
It
Anything's possible.
is.
Hey,
It
we're
is.
like
It
people were
is.
saying we're still early. I'm like, yeah, we're early, man. This is the game has just started. I
I
think the
don't
game.
know.
I think the game has just. This is the we're in the beginnings of the real game right now. So
You're
to me,
right.
it's
You're right.
I kind of take.
But
Go ahead,
this weekend happened, and this weekend
bro. Nothing's.
unveiled a lot of
Yeah, but
things.
nothing's gonna come out of it. They gonna be like, so what? And they're gonna be like, hey, man, we AI generated all these emails. Half of the emails, they're gonna say that too.
It's
I
not
mean,
even that, man. If the whole cryptocurrency system was built on the backs and the brainchild of the same corrupt individuals who
but
participated in the exact same schemes, if if they have co-opted Bitcoin core developers
well,
and financed them for the inception, then who are we to say we have not been a part of a global honeypot, and we're actively participating in global financial crimes?
no, no, no,
Maybe
no,
maybe
no,
the
no,
Dems,
no,
maybe Elizabeth Warren was right all
no,
along.
no, no. That's the game they're trying to run. See, that's how Elizabeth Warren's trying to get us. And I'm not saying there's not a little bit of truth to that. Yeah, and it only can't. Well, first off, the Bitcoin core developers are compromised because they're the ones who are developing the CBDC. So yes, Bitcoin core developers are compromised. But then also I could say, do you know why they're compromised? Because the people didn't want to pay them. All the people involved in Bitcoin, they had fights and wars over taking some of the mining fees to go to the developers who are developing. So that's these own greedy
But where
Bitcoin
did they
maxers
get the
fault from the
finance?
beginning.
They did
Hmm?
get paid. And so where did they get the financing? Epstein. And that does not sit well in my stomach.
Well, and when you say a whole
The
honeypot,
emails reveal
blockchain is traceable as well. So it's like,
the emails reveal that they were being bankrolled by Epstein.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people are being bankrolled by Epstein.
Like some of this precipitous sell off, I think, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to give it causation, but there has to be some correlation to the learnings of this past weekend. But let's round out our topics. Why
yeah,
is there no number 10?
that's a great question. What's up, the block? What's up with this? I guess Cardano. No, we can't. We can't talk about Cardano. I don't want to talk about
No, I'm skipping that. Bitcoin Cash, skipping
Yeah.
that. USDS, skipping
Justin
that.
Sun. That's your boy, Justin Sun, right there.
That's his stable coin. Okay.
Yep.
9 billion. Leo token.
We can talk about Hyper.
Yeah, Hyperliquid. Hey, man.
That does tie into a little bit later. We'll talk about that. Does tie into the prices of gold and silver. Just one seeing the rise. It did have a not if we looked over the past month, probably not so well, but it did have an increase. I think this past week.
It did. Yeah.
One, a lot of people, you can see a lot of people were trading it, not Hyperliquid, but people were trading on the platform perpetuals. They were trading a lot of silver perpetuals. So as the price of silver went up, hit over 100, so did the Hyperliquid token. It rallied as well. One, due to the fact of just an influx of trades, people wanting access. Perpetuals I think offer just a different perspective of, one, we could say maybe price discovery in the blockchain system, maybe not impacting the overall commodities silver market, but with the volatility around geopolitics and seeing all these Epstein files, oops, I didn't mean to say that, the files that released, there are strong performers in this as well. So a lot of things were down, but small indicators for sure, and it's hard to say correlation or causation is correlation or vice versa. But hyper hype token did see a rise, and they do offer a way where if you're trading perpetuals, you get access and paid out in the token in some way, and they are also generating a lot of revenue, and they'll buy back the token from the ecosystem as well to help drive the price up. So a lot of factors there. Let's get Jans back in here.
Yeah, and another big news from them this week is that they are also launching on-chain prediction markets. So they're already taking a lot of the perpetual and futures market share away from Binance and Coinbase and others, but they are going directly at Polymarket and Kalshi, providing on-chain liquidity prediction markets, which they are calling outcome trading, fully collateralized contract format that can power on-chain prediction markets and options like products. The upgrade is currently under testnet launch, but it's positioning the protocol to expand beyond perp futures into event-based and prediction-style markets. And they're riding a lot of user activity, but always be cautious if you are using leverage, as there was a very large liquidation on Hyperliquid this week. One of the largest liquidations in the crypto derivatives market was recorded on Hyperliquid. A position worth more than 700 million was forcibly closed, and according to the account activity data, in just 2 weeks, he lost 270 million, turning a historic 142 million profit into a massive loss. So just beware. The event unfolded amid sharp Bitcoin volatility. On January 31st, the price fell below 76,000 for the first time since April 2025, before rebounding back to 78,000. And that move triggered large-scale liquidations in the futures market. So if you are venturing into Hyperliquid and you are trading futures, you are using leverage, just understand that is not the same as dollar cost averaging or investing with less risk. That is for expert, skilled traders, and use caution. Buying and holding Hyperliquid may be a bit easier, but there's still a lot of risk involved in cryptocurrency and very volatile ecosystems.
Yeah, I mean, it's Hyperliquid's cool with the new wave of like perpetual trading, I guess, a new, I don't know what you would call it, a new class of financial tools out there that I think
Mhm.
blockchain enables in a cool way for people to try out. Yeah, there's going to be risk and volatility, and with the ease of access, if you're a beginner, you're definitely are more prone to lose your funds. But I think as time plays on, and I was listening to somebody talk about this, over the past 20 years, maybe since I started paying attention to the financial system with the great financial crisis that happened. They said we went from, there was just the evolve of financialization. So there are futures, derivatives. Now we're seeing like prediction markets, perpetuals, all coming out with clear rules and regulations starting to form around how blockchains are going to be utilized in the United States when it comes to, what are the rules for how you can launch blockchains, develop on them, what are the rules around which government agency is going to, have regulation over them. The CFTC may have regulations when it comes to like things impacting liquidity. SEC maybe is going to manage fraud and say, okay, you are a security or you're just another class of something else. So all that to say is it's going to be interesting to see how perpetuals play out with the financial system, and drive growth or revenue opportunities for businesses and people, and maybe eventually crash the system again, and we got to start over with blockchain. So we'll see.
Agreed. And My other two tokens that I'm actively including in my daily recurring is Chainlink, as I do believe interoperability and the ability to do everything is going to be important as markets continue to evolve. And if I were to throw another one in there, that would likely be Aave. But Undo is capitalizing on the real world assets and tokenization. Um, they're kicking butt with partnerships,
Yeah,
and token is showing relative strength during the weakness in the market as a whole. So sitting at number 51, and Chainlink sitting at 15. I'd expect to see Undo in the top 25 in the next year or two, and then may break his way into top 15 before you know it.
yeah. I mean, I've been learning so much about just, you could say, the plumbing and infrastructure of how these institutions clear money and move money around, and as they kind of start to utilize blockchain, the rules and the liability and the risks that they have to manage. It's been kind of eye opening to see that, and makes me, you start to question a lot of people I used to listen to and hear before when they talk about mass adoption. What mass adoption actually takes, that is totally different than, I would say, what people were speculating or saying over the past 5 years that I've been following. Even previously, from what I heard, it's a lot. A lot has to go into it. So, and they're going to do it in a way that nobody really expects as well. And I think one of the things too with our relaunch and starting to stream again is I wanted to talk about and clearly just dive more, obviously, into altcoins. Yeah, you got the Bitcoin maxis out there, all the different narratives that come with that. I would think and I would say that those narratives are starting to fall apart when it comes to digital gold, the main one being one of the main narratives I had heard about. What people would say Bitcoin is. Now, with tokenized gold, there's actually digital gold tokenized, backed by gold bars, gold ounces on the blockchain. So I think that narrative is falling away from what people would compare and say for Bitcoin. But when it comes to the different altcoins, especially some used for real world assets, I would definitely want to dive deeper into the differentiations of what those are and not just label them all altcoins. They have their different use cases and different utilities. So XRP may have the most hype, the biggest hype machine behind it, influencers, um, contributors, and whatnot. But it's totally different from, like you had mentioned, something like Chainlink, which actually it has some utility as a protocol or being utilized to link all the different blockchains together, provide data for trading, for markets. And I did write about a couple of others too, not just ones that are being used for decentralized finance, people to trade or lend with each other outside of the traditional banking system, but there are others being utilized for space, satellite technology, verification. You talked about helium and mobile and some of those things. So just defining some of those different use cases and the different opportunities that they provide people to participate with them, one from the investing side, but also two from the physical hardware side as well. As we move into the future with self-driving, autonomous cars, and just the overall way we share data across the internet.
Could not agree more, man. As I was looking through sort of price action over the last week, two coins just stuck out to me in the top 100. One being Morpho. I noticed Morpho being integrated in the Coinbase wallet as the loan provider or vault provider. If you want to not sell your Bitcoin, but actually borrow against your Bitcoin. And while everything else is bleeding over the last week, Morpho's actually up 11, 12% on the week. So Morpho sitting at number 82 spot may be a gem, and knowing that they are integrated directly into Coinbase is a big benefit for me. So I may have just found something where I'll throw $1 or $2 a day at if it's available on Coinbase. And then another is Stable,
Mm.
Stable. Stable is up 30% over the last 7 days. Currently trading at 2 cents with an all-time high of 3 cents. So about to push back towards all-time high. And Stable is the stablecoin payment rail for the world. USDT from static to scalable. And so basically, it's designed for the real economy. It's providing a fast, predictable, and compliant low cost settlement infrastructure, as you were just mentioning a few moments ago, making stablecoin payments scalable for institution and straightforward for users. 500 million people rely on USDT today, yet the rails beneath are still fragmented, unpredictable, and expensive. So, yes, you were just talking about diving deeper into the infrastructure and rails and understanding how money moves and how that's going to continue to evolve over time. And guess what? Looks like once again, Asherel, your thoughts are right alongside price action because a coin that looks to be up the most this week is a infrastructure rails coin, and is up 30% on this week. So I need to check and see if stablecoin is or if stable is available, on a market that I use, and if also Morpho is as well, because I'll be throwing $1-2 at that right there.
All
They
right,
can
look.
join. They can join the Undo dollar cost average.
No, yeah. Well, speaking of like infrastructure, so what I did, I took a look at tokenterminal.com. So go check out Token Terminal. Give you some basic analytics on different blockchains, protocols. But what I did was I went to let's go to their real world assets new sector that they have. I took a look at the assets and I filtered by the highest increase in market cap over the past 30 days. You had to have at least 27% or more of an increase over the past 30 days. So what's interesting to see is we have USD1, which is World Liberty Financial. That's the Trump family backed project, World Liberty Financial, and USD1 is their stablecoin that they're working with on Binance now. And we'll probably cover that, and I'll probably try to write something up as I'm researching what they're doing. Their ties to the UAE with the World Liberty Financial and different people investing in their this Trump family backed business. But USD1 has had the largest increase in their market cap over the past 30 days, around 51%. But what's in second and third place is XAUT and PaxG, which are the tokenized gold from Tether, and then Paxos, those two companies, who are also stablecoin issuers themselves. I just wanted to bring this up to just highlight some of the biggest gainers market cap outside of the regular top 10 coins that we look at are ones that are associated. And we can, if you scroll down, there's Ondo Finance, things that are associated with US dollar, gold, yield strategy, UST bills, credit funds we see down here, Prime, issued by Hastra. It's just interesting to look and see. This may not hold throughout the entire year, obviously, but just some of the things that we track and see if people are worried about their government, tyranny, instability with geopolitics, U.S. Venezuela, the U.S. Iran, what have you. Some of the highest performers so far this year have been tokenized gold and companies tied to increasing like stablecoin US dollars, as well as some of bringing, let's say, legacy finance attributes onto the blockchain. So I found that very, very interesting to see, for people wanting to get exposure to gold. Yeah, you can go buy some gold at your, favorite website, but also too, check out some of these different um, blockchain companies as well that give you access to the price action of tokenized gold, with the idea that they're verifiably backing and have them stored in vaults in London and Switzerland, and you can get some fractionalized exposure as well to the gold market as well. And as time moves forward, these particular companies, yes, they do offer US dollar digital stable coins, but I'm sure they do have plans to increase their specific tokens backed by golds and to weave them out throughout the world as much as they can, depending on what regulations are starting to come out and who may fall outside of those regulations.
Could not agree more. Thank you for diving a bit deeper into the stablecoin ecosystem as a whole, because oftentimes we don't get past USDT and USDC, but there are a number of stable coins and market sectors and
Yeah.
reference assets and issuers and users. And I do see some comments. So shout out to everyone in the comment section. Only Bitcoin 2140 says, good evening, everyone. What's popping on a handstand in the digital spaces? We kicking it, bro. And then he says, been a minute since I've seen much on the channel. Good to see y'all are still carrying the torch for show, for show. And then Africa 2025 has a very good question. Thought on privacy coins, Zcash, Torn, etc. I'll take it really quickly, but I'm going to turn it over to you as the resident Zcash expert and someone who was pushing Zcash years ago before it had its astronomical blow off top. But where I want to take it quickly is because early in the year, just a month ago, back in January, the entire Zcash development team left and basically said that they were not going to be a part of the project any longer. They would continue to support the ecosystem, but they did not want to work for the governance board or body Bootstrap. And Zcash recently, price-wise, has suffered as a result. It just broke the $300 support level today after that massive run up. So expect a lot of price action to the downside. And nevertheless, privacy is going to become more and more important as regulation gets stronger and is more finalized for those who are more traditional. And what I mean by that, who are more beholden to the original values of cryptocurrency, then yes, Zcash is something you probably should be aware of. And Monero is something you can't buy in the United States. I don't know where you are, Africa 2025, but legally you can't go to Coinbase and buy Monero. So you might have the only choice, the only privacy coin you have access to potentially could be Zcash. So that's a way to diversify a portfolio and not just be centered in, let's say, blue chips, tokenized assets, real world assets, interoperability, layer ones, DeFi, NFTs. There's so many sectors or industries in cryptocurrency as a whole that privacy coins is another one of those. If you're prevented from having Monero, then that leaves you with Zcash and understanding retail market mentality. Then obviously if all money has to go one direction, then obviously at some point that one coin's price will more than likely go up. Can't predict the future, but hey, you called it years ago and it happened. So.
Well, I will say, to be honest, I was talking about eCash, not Zcash, but I'll take.
Hey, that's right.
I'll take the credit for it. But I did look up. I did see that story that you said about Zcash. I do think privacy is important.
Good point.
Zcash and Torrent, but there's a part of it too where you have to probably dive a little bit deeper to figure out like, can I actually use this privacy coin, and the fact that like I really need it. So yeah, it's cool, the privacy coins, you can buy those on centralized exchanges right now, but a few years from now, maybe not. Maybe you won't be able to access those. The centralized exchanges are going to say, "Hey, this is good. These privacy coins are going to be used for illicit activities," or they'll say money laundering. So it's kind of like, what then? I would say now it's probably access. Looking at we saw the past, maybe late last year or early this year, a huge uptick in all those privacy coin prices, probably due to the fact that maybe you can predict that people are expecting um, maybe it's tyranny from their government. But just because there are these privacy coins being able to be purchased on centralized exchanges, I don't know. I kind of am in the mind of, yeah, we'll see if they actually are able to, are worthwhile and hold up when it actually matters. I don't know that much about Zcash other than I saw that thing about their developers leaving, so that's definitely not a good sign. But when it comes to Torn, which I think is aligned with Tornado Cash, if I have that right, that mixer, Tornado Cash seems to be okay for now because the administration, there's kind of like, they're not going to look that way. But a different administration, like we saw with the whole Joe Biden, they definitely didn't like Tornado Cash and were prosecuting the developers. So I would say with that, I think those are nice, but there probably needs to be something more from just listening to people who are developers in this space. I don't know the
Hmm.
technical ways of how to do it, but there can be privacy, and that can be tied into some of these blockchains. More so, I'm thinking like the proof of work blockchains. There's some ways where you can maintain privacy without actually having to buy like this particular token to maintain that. So I would say that probably as a whole, I'm still uncertain if these privacy coins can actually stand up to the scrutiny of when we'd actually need to be able to use them, because it still would come down to like, who's going to accept them, how are you going to get them in your wallet, are you going to be able to buy and sell, or is it just another play of you're hoping to have some price appreciation just because the market is fearful and is looking towards privacy. But there are a lot of different privacy coins. There's a secret coin out there. You can stake that and collect and earn yield on that one. So I I don't know. I don't really have. I'm not really betting on these privacy coins to do anything.
Yeah, neither am I. That's not my particular sector. But I did see another question from Only Bitcoin 2140. He asked, wasn't Monero under a 51% attack? And yes, back in the fall, it is alleged and disputed that they were under 51% attack, as someone did claim to have secured over 50% of the mining power, which caused Kraken to halt deposits and prevent double spends or reorganizations of blocks or censoring of transactions. So yes, there was some FUD. You are correct around Monero. Their team disputes it. They say they went back to the table and did some reorganization. However, whenever you have to make a public statement saying, hey, everything's all good, we know what that means in the FTX context. Hey, your funds are here. We got your money. That means your money is gone. So
Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. That's for sure. All right, I
whenever they
wanted.
say, hey, whenever they say, hey, don't worry, we got your money, they ain't got it.
They got it. I did. I wanted to close before we get on to some stories. I don't know how much time you have. I did want to just go back and highlight and close out what I was going to talk about with just building off of like PaxG, XAUT for Tether, and just also about stablecoins. You should also think through as well. There are differences in how the stablecoins are issued and different rules for how they apply. So, for example, correct me if I'm wrong here, and feel free to put in the comments right now or after if you're watching this back. So for example, Paxos, they issue a stable coin, but they issue stable coins for PayPal. They also issue stable coins for who else? A couple of other people. But the way Paxos sets their stablecoin up is slightly different than the way Tether does it. So, for example, it's my understanding that if you get a Tether stablecoin, purchase that or utilize that on the blockchain, what you're actually doing is Tether is giving you a loan, a non-back loan. Paxos is a little bit different is as far as how they set their stablecoin issuance up. Where if anything were to happen to Paxos, the company, you would still get access and still be able to utilize the still stablecoins that they're issuing, just because they set it up in a separate trust. So Tether and USDC, issued by Circle, and Tether issues lies the USDT stablecoin. Those operate in a way where you're essentially like there's it's in a way where you may not be able to get redeem or get access to your money, for example, if those companies went down. There's a little bit of nuance of how they're set up. I may have to do a little bit more reading and explain that a little bit better, but that's just one of the small intricacies I would say between the different stablecoin issuers is, I guess, the end liability and who the liability ends on, as you, the person who's utilizing it, or the issuer, and how they kind of subjugate and set aside the assets that back that token, and how they actually issue it to you as well. So that's definitely something to consider as you're utilizing different blockchains, or you and maybe have wanting to access these different stable coins as well. All right, so one of the things here we'll do is let's get into some of the top stories that I wanted to highlight for the day. But actually, before we do that, this one thing here is really interesting. An overall look at the mind share of the entire market. So this is from Masari. Masari provides very good insights into the entire sentiment of the market, and they'll do a breakdown by sector. So you have stable coins, you have memes, you have AI, NFTs, blockchain infrastructure, networks. And this view is just over the past month. We did take a look at this on our last stream as well. And one thing I would like to know and highlight is, as far as mindshare and how they calculate this, they're looking at what people are saying on social media, news headlines, price action, just to get a sense of the entire market when it comes to blockchains. How are people feeling about certain sectors, different things and moves being made by certain companies? How does that impact how people feel? And we can see DeFi is up 71.52% over the past month, which is kind of crazy. They own an overall 18% of mindshare overall of all the different sectors that they have broken down. But one of the main reasons of why they highlight this 71% increase over the past month has been World Liberty Financial's USD1 stablecoin achieving a 191% surge in, they say, salon supply, driven by a 40 million Binance incentives campaign and boosted yield on Kimono, coupled with Ethereum's Fusaka upgrade, amplifying usage and new addresses by 170%, and the emergence of yield streaming, a model for proportional reserve yield distribution. So if you notice on Token Terminal, we did take a look at some of the different uh, real world asset companies that had a huge market cap, and we did see things associated with yield bearing. So check out Missouri.io just to take a look at what people are thinking overall and what's the sentiment. The fair greed index, like Jamal said, is hovering around 14, and people are very fearful right now. But within all the chaos, the volatility, we can see certain sectors are starting to perform and have an increase, not necessarily in price yet, but as far as the makeup of what people have their mind on. So DeFi, I think, is one of those sectors where legacy finance is coming over to the blockchain side. DeFi is going to play a big part of it, but within that big umbrella of DeFi, there are specific blockchains and protocols I would say to take a look at that are going to be partnering with some of your favorite payment providers, your favorite banks, your favorite retirement accounts. Fidelity just announced recently that they're launching their own stablecoin to be utilized within their platform, as well as being interoperable between different blockchains as well. And I think they're going to utilize the Ethereum blockchain for that. So, um, a lot of moves being made with legacy finance and blockchain. It's early in 2026, and there's definitely a lot more to come as we move forward. Let's see what the chat's saying. Uh, Only Bitcoin 2140 says, I worry about privacy coins because if we know about them, so do the very ones people are trying to avoid. Yeah. And he says, blockchain analytics, simple math on a grand scale at the on and off points allowed Ellie to make fairly good guesses at who was what money were just a bit worrisome. So yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. Okay. Let's move on to some news stories here in a second and take a little break. All right. Let's get into some top news stories. Some of these news stories are just going to reaffirm some of the things that Jams and I were saying overall. He may have some things to add when he jumps back on as far as what stories that he's following. We had the World Economic Forum just recently. We did have some big news in the stablecoin ecosystem. Um, I did want to touch on this. Stablecoins have been an interesting topic to touch on for us here at Crypto and Down. One, because of the Genius Act, which passed by Congress, was signed into law by President Trump just recently. But this story comes from CoinDesk, where they say Tether takes the fight to Circle with a new Made in America stablecoin. So, this new token is going to be issued by Anchorage Digital Bank and designed to comply with the Genius Act, and is going to target institutional demand for a US regulated digital dollar. So Tether are actually already has their own stablecoin USDT that is utilized by people in emerging markets. So that would be countries like your Venezuela's, your Nigeria's, all of parts across maybe Southern America, as South America, as well as Asia. So people utilize the USDT stablecoin because maybe their local currency is going through serious hyperinflation and they need access to US dollars, and they can you know, put their money into a stable coin where it's not going to inflate away as much as their local currency. So that's a reason why people would utilize a stable coin in a different country. But what Tether is doing now is they're trying to take on the US market by launching their own stable coin issued by Anchorage, the bank Anchorage. So for over the years that since Tether first launched, they've come across the ire of lots of U.S. regulators. They've been taken to court several times, specifically by I think the Attorney General of New York. One, because people said they didn't have the reserves that they said they did, but over time it was kind of proven now that Tether said yes, we do have the reserves for our coin. But one way I think Tether is trying to get on the good graces of the U.S. lawmakers and U.S. regulatory machines like the SEC, and different attorney generals and let's say states that are very intertwined with finance, is they're trying to launch their own stablecoin into the U.S. market. One, to take market share away from USDC and the company Circle, and I would say figure out ways to comply with the regulations that are here now. What is interesting though for Tether is they're actually backed, and their institutional backer who helps them buy treasuries to back up their stablecoins is the current Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, his old company, Cantor Fitzgerald. That's the company that is actually allowing Tether to be able to buy US treasuries and back up all of the digital dollar stablecoins that they issue to people across the world. So Everything that we're talking about with geopolitics, blockchain, ties back into the White House. Not only Trump, but a lot of the people around him are some of the forerunners into this new, you could say, money system that they're trying to develop across the world and here at home by utilizing the blockchain and the different protocols at their disposal. One, to grow the reach of the US dollar, help finance the US debt, and then also, get rich in the process themselves. So the reason I like to highlight the people in politics who are involved in the blockchain space, that can kind of tell, at least it tells me, and the idea of where things are headed. So, for example, things may happen with Venezuela. We see that Tether is a big user. Venezuelans utilize Tether to get away from their own currency. Maybe we hear about stories that are things that are happening in the Middle East with the United Arab Emirates. The Arab Emirates were one of the big backers of the Trump family World Liberty Financial um, pro, organization. So there's a lot of intertwining with all these different countries that tie back into not only the stablecoin market, but are starting to bleed into the actual blockchains themselves and the different protocols that are going to be utilized in this, you could say, new money system that is being used. So I wanted to highlight this story as well. Let me see if Jan is ready to get back in here. Before we move on, let's go through. So this particular token that will be launched in the US is going to be called USAT. Excuse me, USAT, and will be managed by Bo Hines. So Bo Hines used to be one of the people leading the like write up of the crypto laws in the Trump administration. He'll be the one leading the Tether's charge here into the U.S. Partnered with Anchorage Digital. So go check out that story from CoinDesk just to see kind of how stablecoins are going to start impacting us here in the US. Okay. I do have a couple of other stories that I wanted to get into. A lot of them are, unfortunately, Tether and stablecoin related. We're going to definitely try to bring some more insights into altcoins and to do a breakdown of some of our favorite ones by the different sectors that they're in, and try to, I think, define kind of what are the key differences and things to think through for people who are taking a look at them. Because like Jam said, there are some that provides some interoperability between different blockchains, but there are others too that I think could provide great upside here over the next few months and into the end of this year. All right, Jams, I'm going to bring you back real quick. I did
Yeah, yeah.
touch on the Tether story. That was one of the last stories I had. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to touch before we get out of here.
Yeah, I just wanted to um, confirm the differences in the stable coins, specifically USDC and USDT. Both are fiat backed, but USDC by Circle is backed by cash and short term US treasuries with a high level of transparency and a pretty low risk profile, as U.S. Treasuries are the safest and backed by the U.S. government, and cash is cash. So available one to one. USDT has a larger mix of treasuries, cash, repos, and some other assets. We don't know what those may be. And so there's a little bit less transparency. And then, of course, you have the crypto backed stable coins that are over collateralized, but the price of Bitcoin or Ethereum could drop dramatically, and thus that DAI does have some risk. And then, of course, you have your hybrid algorithmic stable coins as well. But I ain't going there. So
Yeah.
obviously there are a lot of nuance to stable coins. They're not just dollars. What backs them differs, who backs them differs, and ultimately that determines whether or not you can be confident, or if that fits your particular use case for trading or DeFi or whatever particular usage you find. We've been on about a solid hour. Feel like we got to go pretty deep. I appreciate you for um, going as long as you did. So I appreciate. I really give you my kudos. It's late. We're in the middle of a work week. We got kids. We got families, but we're here talking crypto, man. We're getting the word out, making sure people are aware of the latest news, that they know the markets aren't dead, although prices are down dramatically. There is still exciting development and things that people should be aware of. Shout out to Only Bitcoin 2140 for kicking it with us. We definitely appreciate you for coming through. Said I can see the government launching a wallet. People get a discount for using it for a few years to lure folks in. The BAM, we're in 1984. We are squarely in Orwellian times. The dystopian state is fully amongst us. Shout out to our overlord, Peter Thiel. Appreciate you for surveilling us all through Palantir. Glad to be a part of your new NSA state. Shout out to Tulsi Gabbard, our Queen Mother overlord. And, what can we do, man? There, we didn't go too far down the rabbit hole tonight, but I'll end by saying our prayers go out to all the victims of sexual assault, and specifically child sex assault. It's not cool, and I hope that justice is served in one way or another, whether that's here on Earth or in an afterlife.